Tell me about the conversation you had with Mitt Romney on economic policy that really kind of brought this to a head in your mind.
Sure. So I was, as I think you mentioned, his domestic policy director in
How did you get to be that, by the way?
Election.
How did you get that?
So we've skipped over this part.
Yeah, we have. Let's go back and
of the life story. So I went from college to management consulting. One is as one is wont to do.
Not Bain. You didn't go to Bain, did you? Did you go to McKinsey?
Yes. So at Bain.
Oh, Jesus.
And so, let me say, and I will still tell young people this. It is a tremendous experience for a couple of years out of college. Learned a tremendous amount of work, learned a tremendous amount about different industries, about how to just work effectively, got to work with brilliant people, but knew that ultimately I wanted to do public policy. And so when everyone else was going off to business school, I went to law school. And through that Bain connection had been connected to people on the Romney team. And so it was actually between my second and third years of law school, I went to work for his 2012 campaign. And this was sort of very early on as things were getting started in 2011, and found myself with the task of preparing a briefing for him on trade policy. And so sort of dutifully prepared the standard, here's what a Republican says about trade policy. And we went through the briefing.
Give us a brief, just a brief account of what that was at that point.
Oh, free trade has been extraordinary for the world and generates growth and has created a lot of jobs, and free trade agreements are especially important. And so what our trade agenda needs to be is to strengthen the WTO and pursue additional free trade agreements and lower tariff barriers, and that will lead to yet more growth and jobs. And so he went through it and nodded and said, okay, I understand all this, and got to the end and said, that's fine, but what are we going to do about China? And that question was not one that Republicans were supposed to ask. One could do many lengthy podcasts on all of now Senator Romney's strengths and weaknesses. I have tremendous admiration for him as a man, and was honored to work for him. One of his real strengths, and also at times a weakness, is he was not at all ideological. He was a business consultant through and through, and so the ideology of free trade was not of particular interest to him. Either the arguments were good or not, and he wanted to know what we were going to do about China. And
when he said that, what did you understand that he meant by that question?
We were a bit confused, to be honest.
Did you have an answer for him? Did you, or did you just open and shut your mouth and no words came out?
The first, so I'm the junior staffer who prepares the briefings. There were much more illustrious senior economists in the room as well, and so I don't want to sort of attempt to verbatim describe who said what, but the response was essentially, well, what do you mean? What do we do about China? This is great. We have free. Look at all of this trade we're doing with China. And he said, no, that's ridiculous. This is, our relationship with China is a disaster. If anybody in the business world will tell you, they are sort of aggressively, intentionally hollowing out our industry, diverting investment, crushing American companies in unfair ways. This can't possibly be good for us. And it's important to remember, this was before the actual economic research, most famously what's called the China shock research, had actually shown that this was true, that trade with China had very negative effects. Economists were steadfastly insisting that whatever was going on outside their windows, on their blackboards, free trade with China was good. And if China wanted to send us stuff more cheaply that they would make instead of us, that's even better, because the goal of economics is to consume as much stuff as you can while doing as little work as possible. And he just said, absolutely not. I want a better answer than that. And I got sent off to, okay, fine. He's the candidate. I guess we need, all right, we need an answer. Warren, go bring him something else we can say about China. And I think I mentioned, I had various interesting, quirky, heterodox instincts. I had reached this point not questioning any of the sort of generic neoliberal economic thinking. It seemed good enough for me. But as soon as I started looking into this proved to be a very interesting question. There were clearly very serious problems with our trading relationship with China. There were, very credible assessments of the damage it was doing. There were things going on, currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, one-sided barriers that did not seem to fit the models at all.